Church University, talking about the secondary routes into education and teaching careers. I'm Ashley and this is Jess, we're from Kent Teach, and we are joined by...
I'm James, I'm the Head of Secondary here at Canterbury Christ Church.
Fantastic. So, James, can you tell us a little bit about Canterbury Christ Church University and what secondary routes they offer?
Okay, so we offer lots of different routes in secondary IT. Our sort of main course is the PGCE with PTS, which is the typical course you go looking for when you think of teacher training. However, we also offer a whole load of different routes, including school-based programs, both salaried and non-salaried. We offer the new PGTA Postgraduate Teaching Apprenticeship in secondary, and as well, we have the assessment-only pathway, which is a pathway really aimed at sort of professionals already working in teaching, but looking to get their qualified teacher status as well. And then for the last few years, to enhance our package, we also run the IQTS, so the International Qualified Teacher Status package, for international teachers working in international schools looking to get qualifications that match the same levels of expectation as here in the UK.
That's fantastic. I mean, there's quite a lot of courses on
Yeah,
I
didn't even realise there was so many.
Yeah, quite a lot of different routes. So really suit different types of trainees and people coming from different sort of stages of lives, whether they've just recently graduated from university or perhaps looking to change careers. We have lots of different courses to help people find the right way into teaching. All of them result with the same qualified teacher status, but how we get to that point, how they sort of enter the university, how they learn, complete the course themselves and learn the trade, depends on what they're looking for, where they're coming from, perhaps what type of school they're in, whether they're employed already, and those sorts of things to help people find a route that best suits.
So what sort of qualifications would you need to join the program? So obviously I appreciate there are lots of different programs and they may come with their own. But
all courses have the same requirements in that you need to have a 2-2 or above honours degree from a UK university or similar. And so all of our trainees for the postgraduate courses or school-based options must have that first degree already in place. Typically we look for that in the subject area that they're going to be studying in. So with all of our different courses in secondary, you can do that in a whole range of different subjects, whether it's English or maths or science or history, geography, music, RE and PE. I think that covers most of it. And so we'd obviously look for a degree in that specific area or closely related. So sometimes you might find for a science training, they might have a degree in a slightly different area from physics, perhaps engineering. So we'd still include that. So we'd look for that, and then they would need to also have relevant GCSEs with a 4 or above in maths and English, and then 2 references to suit the type of application that they're doing because they are slightly different. And that's it really.
yeah, sounds good. So what does the training kind of look like? What would their schedule be?
Yeah, so all of our courses balance some sort of university lecture style experience with placement days as well, so professional experience on actually in schools. There's lots of different approaches. So the new PGTA course, for example, is very school-based with only a certain number of days here at university. Same with our school-based option. But typically with our PGCE course and with the way we structure most of our courses, you will have a few weeks or a few days of university time at the start of the course. And then throughout the course, 1 day a week, typically on a Friday, trainees will come back to the university and have lectures either as a whole cohort or in their subject areas with just the other trainees in the same subject as them. But we'll spend about 120 days on our PGCE course actually on placement. And that would be split over 2 placements. One that would run from September to February, and one that runs from February until the end of June. The idea would be that over the course of those 2 placements, their teaching timetable would increase. So at first they'd be doing lots of observations and then perhaps some team teaching or shorter activities. But over time they'd start taking on their own classes right up until the last few weeks of the course where they would have a much fuller timetable, preparing them for the actual realistic challenges of the teacher, being a qualified teacher as they move on. Throughout the year, they would come back for a few days here and there on top of their Fridays. So it might be at the beginning or end of the term or for assessment days and things like that. But typically we have that structure throughout the year. For our school-based routes, PTA, they attend some of our Fridays, but they don't have quite as much contact time due to the nature of their course as well. This is different for the assessment-only route, which is a much shorter course. That's just 12 weeks on placement. That's where you're already employed in the school, already working and just getting the qualification itself. And with that, they don't have any university days, but they have members of staff from the university come out, visit them, observe them teaching, work with their mentor, and support them putting together their portfolio over that 12-week process. But typically, for our main courses, they run from September through until July. And it's really, induction to the course at the start, building placement 1, assessments and university days throughout, second placement, building for that bigger timetable towards our end of course assessment, which happens right in June.
Fantastic. I think you've touched on this throughout some of your answers anyway, but just to clarify, do all of these routes give people QTS?
Yes, all of them give you QTS in different, all the same outcomes. So from the point, whichever course you've taken, at the end of the year, you can then go work in any secondary school in the UK as a qualified teacher. The IQTS pathway, that's our international pathway, that gives our international teachers the opportunity to come to the UK and teach in our UK schools, so it meets the same standards. But all of them reach that same end goal, which is having the QTS. Where it's different is the PGCE course has more academic modules built into it. And so alongside your placements during your university days, you're also studying the theory and looking at research behind teaching. And that gives you the sort of foundations to complete 2 modules during the year, which give you that PGCE aspect. That's the qualification you get for completing the academics. For the school-based route, you can opt to do the PGCE as well on top of that, but it's not compulsory. So it's something you can decide to do if you're working in a school already and you're completing one of our school-based pathways. You can focus on just the qualified teacher status aspect, just the professional experience, or you can also take on that academic qualification as well and get your PGCE. But that's an opt-in decision that you'll have to make during the course.
And if people wanted to opt in and do that PGCE qualification as well, what are the benefits of obtaining that qualification as well?
The PGCE, well, there are quite a few benefits really, but I suppose I think the main 2. One is that it's an internationally respected qualification. And just knowing that you have PGCE as well as your QTS, it does elevate your CV and elevate your sort of employability as well. It shows that you've taken on that academic qualification and been successful with it. But also the content of what you learn during that PGCE. You really look at pedagogy, you really look at research. It helps you to be evidence-informed in the classroom. It helps you to really be mindful about what you're doing and why in the classroom. It provides that space for reflection, and it also helps you engage with academics at a level that may encourage you to take that study further. So at the end of the PGCE, you actually get credits towards a master's. And what we do is we set the foundations for that master's through the PGCE by helping trainees really think about their writing, think about their research, think about their inquiry processes, and have those academic conversations within the university environment to elevate them to the sort of level of expectation we have for them.
Fantastic, thank you. So how is the university route different to kind of other ITT or SCITT-centred approaches?
Yeah, the university route is it has more time and focus on the experience of being a student actually at the university. The school-based routes, you'll spend most of your year in one school, and typically with school-based or PGTA, you'll have a contrasting placement of 4 weeks to experience a different learning environment. However, the bulk of it will be done at that one institution. Our university route splits the year into those 2 placements, and because of that, you get 2 very clear contrasting experiences. What we look to do is make sure that the 2 schools are contrasting. So you might be perhaps in a grammar school for one placement and a academy status for a second. You might be in a single-sex school for one. You might be in a city school for another, and then out on the coast for another. So we try to make sure that the 2 experiences are very different in terms of what our trainees get. But also, being a student here, you get the community involvement as well. You get that student experience that we really prioritise, where you can be part of the lecture environment, you can be in the seminars, you can talk to the tutors, and get the experience from the staff there, but also being with your peers as well. By coming together as a whole cohort, or coming together in different subjects, you get the opportunity to really experience university life and have that almost safety net, that knowing that yes, you are developing your professional experience and practice, but also you're getting the support and safety net of having the university as a place to come back to on a Friday, as a place to reflect and share ideas, a place to sort of talk about some of the challenges perhaps that you've had and find support in that from working with the others to overcome those challenges. As well, of course, all of our wellbeing services and our library access and all those other aspects that you get as part of being a Christ Church trainee.
Fantastic. So kind of just that extra level of support from the lecturers and from your peers as well.
Definitely, because the staff there are lecturers, but they're also, it's a very sort of pastoral role that they fulfill, and they're here to mentor and tutor throughout the course. Yes, to be the experts in terms of that subject knowledge and that pedagogical understanding, but also to be there to help you through what perhaps unforeseen circumstances come up during the course, because we know that PGCE IT training can present challenges. We know there's lots of people involved. You'll have your mentors in school, your professional mentors, your tutors here, times that by two for 2 different placements. There's lots of moving parts involved, lots of personalities and relationships that need forging very quickly in quite high octane situations, because our trainings start here in September. They're on placement within 2 weeks. But just as schools are entering their 3rd or 4th week of their term, our trainees are all of a sudden, at least in front of the pupils, a member of staff, and they have to step into that role. So it's a very exciting time, but also it can be a time of challenge. And so our staff provide a really comprehensive level of support, not just academically, but also that pastoral role as well.
Fantastic.
So I know earlier you mentioned that when they do their PGCE training, they go into their kind of subjects, as it were, as well as those PGCE main lectures. Is that how it is constructed? Is it a specialist PGCE that you get, or is it just kind of overall PGCE and then a specialised?
Yeah, no, great question. So you'll get your PGCE with QTS in the subject area that you've done. So obviously, if you're a history trainee, you have trained with the PGCE with QTS to teach history. And the way we structure that is we have our one curriculum which runs through everything we do, and all subject areas will look at the same themes week by week. So, for example, if the focus of the week is adaptive practice, all of our lectures in that week will be focused on adaptive practice. The subject sessions that will break off will look at it specifically within that subject area. Across the full cohort lectures, it will be talked about in a more general sense and engaging with theory. And then on placement as well, that's what they'll be looking at. We're talking with their mentors. So the idea is that on a regular week, Monday to Thursday, they'll be in school, observing lessons, teaching lessons, reflecting, having their mentor meeting, and talking about these key concepts. And then back with us, we look at it in terms of the theoretical aspect behind it, and then break off into our subjects to make sure that we're really investigating, examining those key concept areas, but making sure that we're always embedding that theory into practice. So why is this relevant? How is it relevant by subject? And how am I actually embedding it into my classroom practice? Meaning, making sure that it's meaningfully embedded in their practice as well.
So if you had your PGCE specialised in history, does that mean that you can't then teach any other subject?
Oh, not at all. There's, I think some subjects lend themselves to that. Typically, there are some subjects where if that's what you trained in, that's what you'll teach. But as you move forward, really, although we specialise in our subject areas, trainees are encouraged to take on opportunities where they can. Perhaps science teachers, for example, although they may have their science specialism, and we would promote that they teach their specialism for GCSE and A-level, perhaps we encourage Key Stage 3 and where possible Key Stage 4 teaching as well, just to improve the employability of our trainees, and also knowing that as they move into the workplace, they will have opportunities to have those contractual discussions about teaching second subject. So where possible, we do encourage it. But what we would make sure is that the support is put in place for our trainees. Have they got relevant qualifications before the course that can help them with subject knowledge? Have they got mentor and in-school support to make sure they're going to be successful? What we wouldn't do is say one of our trainees would just pick up a second subject to help out, fulfilling having a teacher in the classroom. But if there was an opportunity and the trainee was on board, interested in taking it, we would certainly encourage that.
Yeah, really good.
So I was wondering about which schools and their qualifications. Because I obviously did mine in primary, so it's just very broad, whereas obviously secondary is a lot more niche.
Yeah, really, really interesting.
Certainly, typically, during the training course, our focus would be on the subject itself. But part of what we do is, especially towards as the course develops, as we prepare our trainees for interviews, going for jobs, we do support them with that. What else could you bring to the role? What else? Maybe it's to do with the second subject, or maybe it's to do with the interest beyond the subject, extracurricular opportunities and things like that. And we try to support to make them, to enhance their applications, to give them more things to talk about during their interviews. And help them understand that, yes, it's what the school has for you, but also what you can take for the school, and understanding about that partnership, which sort of reflects really the partnership culture we create here between schools, trainees, and the staff. We'd like to know that our trainees know what they're doing, where they're at. We'd like to have good relationships with our mentors. We're very involved with mentor training, mentor development, and communication, and then how that links to the school. We try and embed that into our trainees during the training year, so they can take that partnership mentality out with them when they go to schools themselves.
Fantastic. Yeah, really. Really nice, yeah. So I know you spoke about a lot of the different routes, but is there are there differing costs for those routes? So what are the costs, and are there any funding routes available?
Yes, there are. So all the courses have different costs depending on the type of course that it is, the length of it, and the requirements from the school and things. It would be worth going to the website, because on the website we've got our general Christ Church Routes into Teaching page, which lists all the different courses. And then from secondary, you'd be able to see the PGCE QTS, or the school-based, or the PGTA options. It is worth noting that there are bursaries available for certain subjects, not all subjects, and differing amounts. So there's a section on our website that talks about bursaries, and this is for international applicants as well. Certainly some of the high priority subjects like physics, maths, MFL have higher bursaries. And with the new teaching apprenticeships of the PGTA, schools can draw from the apprenticeship levy to cover costs. So certainly when for those who are already working in schools and considering the school-based options, the PGTA, it would be worth having that conversation with the employer to talk about funding options and which best suits, A, in terms of which course best suits, but B, how funding opportunities would work, depending on the different course.
So if I was to come on one of these courses, obviously complete the course, get my QTS or PGCE or both, what would happen after the training?
From the end of the year?
Yeah.
Okay, so once you've completed the course and you've got your qualified teacher status, typically by this point our trainees would have found work. So we encourage our trainees to be applying for jobs throughout the year. If you're on the PG course, you may be looking for jobs in the schools where they've had placements during the course, or if they're on school-based routes, typically, they may be employed there anyway for the year after. So the big focus really is about getting employment. People come for the love of teaching, but the aim of, on completion of this course, people aim to have a job in the school, whether that's in a school around Kent or further afield or even international. So we support them with that. At the end of the course, we have a big assessment day where all of our trainees come and we celebrate the end of the course. They sign off their portfolios that they've been developing over the year. They'll then be recommended for QTS, which once they've received, they'll be able to share with their employment schools. And then really from that first September after the course, they're in school, a fully qualified member of staff working in the school. However, before they go on to, all the support jobs are, there's a 2-year early career teacher process which starts as soon as they arrive at school. So when they leave us, they complete various different documents and processes, effectively looking at target setting for their next year, which they would share with their ECT coordinator. That would be someone in the school who would be overseeing teacher development, staff development, and ECTs. And at this stage, they would start their ECT where they would have 2 years in school. Yes, they'd be teaching a fairly full timetable, but not quite as full as a fully qualified member of staff who's passed the ECT. And they would have a mentor in school. They would have, and they would have that support put in place with CPD sessions and things like that, just to help ease them into the workplace and just be there as a bit of a support, like a supportive net, a safety net, in place as someone they can go to talk to continue to reflect on their practice, keep getting feedback through observations, just to help, so it doesn't become such a big step from the end of the course going into teaching. By the end of those 2 years, then they complete their ECT and they are fully just a teacher at that point. One other thing I would say though is that obviously as an alumni of Christ Church, we do keep our links up with our alumni the whole way through. And so there's various different alumni services that they can engage with, and they still keep the contacts of people here. And we really do encourage our trainees to stay in touch, let us know how they're getting on. And keep updating us, share their experience, and then also we encourage them to come back either for events or opportunities to come and talk to the next cohort of trainees to help share their experiences. So it's not quite training to expert teacher, to help show that gradual process of development our trainees have.
So if there's a member of staff that's currently working in a school that would be interested in qualifying and becoming a teacher, how would they be able to access some of these courses?
Well, there'd be 3 main courses that they would want to look at. I'd encourage them to go to the website, because from there they can look at the expectations of the course, they can look at some of the key details, and also work out which route is best for them. But those 3 routes are the school-based route, the PGTA, or the assessment-only route. They would be the main 3. It really depends on how long they've been working in the school, how much experience they have, what their timetable commitments are, and things like that. So, for example, if they have been teaching for a few years, 2 years plus, and they were looking for the sort of fast track route really to getting their QTS, I would encourage them to look at an assessment-only pathway. That's our 12-week course where they have to, they're observed 3 times during the course, once at the start, once in the middle, once at the end. And the idea with that course is they put together a portfolio to demonstrate that they can meet the teacher standards and be recommended for QTS. So that's certainly a route if an individual's been teaching as an unqualified teacher in a school. The other 2 routes, the school-based or the PGTA, the apprenticeship, you don't need to have completed years in school. It may be that you've seen a job come up as an unqualified teacher in a school, or you've seen an advert for the PGTA. So it could be for anyone who's a graduate who's looking to get into teaching. They could apply through those routes as well. And that might suit someone potentially who was looking to earn while they were working, while they were training, because they would get a monthly salary, but also it would be a way to have that university link as well and still access those sessions. So my best advice would be to talk to whoever is the staff development member of staff in the school, whoever oversees that, consider those options, whether they're new to the school or have been working there for a long time, and look at which ones work best in terms of sort of life commitments, where they are in their career, maybe the experience they've had in schools, and any sort of financial expectations that they might have as well.
And I think the last question we have for you is about overseas candidates, which I know you've already touched on, as I know you said about the international qualification. We do get a lot of overseas candidates asking us, how can they get into teaching, and what advice would you give them if they're looking to get into secondary teaching?
We welcome lots of international trainees here. We have a large number of international trainees from all over the globe, not just on the international EIQTS, but also here on our PGCE course as well. Particularly in some of those priority subjects, we've got large numbers of international trainees studying physics, maths, and MFL. I would highly encourage them to apply. I think it's a great experience to come to a beautiful city in a lovely campus, but also to get a real sort of unique experience in UK schools and schools here in the southeast around London and Kent. But also, because of our large numbers, we have a lot of international trainee support, both in the fact that they are a cohort together, so they work together and they build really good friendships and professional relationships which they can lean on throughout the course, but also through some of the services that we have here. We've got a big international trainee or student support network, a lot of facilities available, a lot of spaces to come where they can help, because it is a lot when you arrive in September and say you've never been to the UK before, and then suddenly you've got 2 weeks of induction, and then third week you're actually in a school. That's quite a steep learning curve for a lot of our trainees, and so we have a lot of supportive measures put in place to help them, and that's why we highly encourage international applications. I would say for international applications, we do have a cut-off deadline at the end of May, so for those considering it, please do get your, I really encourage them to get their applications in early, because we would hate them to miss out. And we do know that visas can take some time to process. And so the earlier the applications get in, the sooner they can get going with that to make sure they're here for the start of the course.
If they have qualifications from their home country, say, would they need to get an equivalency, or is there?
So yeah, definitely part of our admissions process is we will look at that. So we haven't spoken about it much, but we interview all of our trainees, whether they're from the UK or international applicants. And our admissions team will look through and check their qualifications, check that they meet what we require. If there's equivalency qualifications needed, we will give that advice and we will signpost where you can go together. What happens after interview is all applicants get this, but international applicants will get almost a sort of to-do list. This is it from point of interview to when you're arriving here in September. This is everything you're going to need to do. So this is where you can find it. Here's the links, the websites, all this sort of stuff. And if it is equivalency or English language qualifications and things like that, we will signpost and guide on how to get them, how to access them, and who to send it to demonstrate that. Most of that will happen either during the interview with the subject tutor or directly with our postgraduate admissions team, who will give that sort of advice as well.
Sounds like there's a lot of support for them, and I think that's really important. Like you say, if they're coming into the UK and then 3 weeks later they're starting school, it's nice that they've got that kind of list to fall back on. Right, I need to do this, and just really map it out.
Yeah, exactly. We're fully aware of how full on the course can be. And like I said, it is exciting. It's a really great year, and it's certainly a year that all teachers remember for the rest of their lives. Everyone remembers that first year of teacher training. As full on as it is, we make sure that we've got the framework in place to support the trainees with whatever it is, whether it's that academic side or the more pastoral side. We know it's a lot to take in. For students especially international students, they are entering an education system they may not be at all aware of. They are entering university systems that they may not be at all aware of. And so we try to signpost and set up everything in a way that's fully inclusive and engaging for all, to make sure that all of our trainees can be successful in the course.
So can you just tell us a little bit more about what the placement experience would be like?
Of course. So depending on the different routes that trainees are taking, placements will look a little bit different. It's worth for potential applicants to consider that when looking for different courses. But all trainees are set up in schools, whether they're on a school-based route or RPG, with a subject mentor and a professional mentor. Those are two members of staff from the school who oversee their training during that period. From our end, they will have a subject tutor, that will be the person they work with in their Friday subject sessions, but also what we call a lead mentor as well. So we have lots of support from both sides. And the different roles for these individuals are, the subject mentor in school will be with the trainee for 4 days a week. They will be the member of staff in the school who observes them on a weekly basis, who meets with them in their mentor meetings, that will be observed by them, and will be their main point of call throughout their placement experience. Typically, trainees are also attached to other members of staff in the department, and it's a great opportunity to see other people teach, learn different tips and ideas and approaches, and also get feedback from different people. The professional mentor in the school oversees all trainee teachers who are in the school, and their role is to provide that level of support and quality assurance to help the mentor and the trainee, ensuring they're meeting expectations, making the right levels of progress, putting in support measures if needed along the way to help them, and also typically to observe along the way. They also communicate directly with us, so the professional mentor will work closely with our lead mentor in terms of overseeing that quality assurance and support network as well. And the subject mentor will work with our subject tutor from a subject-specific, with a subject-specific focus to ensure that they are delivering the curriculum, engaging with the curriculum, embedding what they're learning at university into their practice and reflecting on their practice, but also making the right levels of support of progress throughout the year. And we have a process in place to ensure that trainees are hitting those milestones to be successful as they go. And then during the placement themselves, we'd expect our trainees to, as I said earlier, build their timetables, so starting with lots of observation and take on more teaching as we go, but also fully engage with school life. So it's tutor groups, it's extracurricular opportunities, just really experience, or parents' evenings and events and things like that, really experience what school life is like beyond their classroom, to ensure they're getting that really holistic view of what being a school teacher is, beyond the silos of teaching rooms and departments.
Fantastic. Sounds like a really well-rounded experience for the students.
That's what we've created, and it's an approach that has been embedded with our partner schools. It's been through recent changes, but certainly it's a process that's been very well embedded in our partner schools. So our schools know it, and we work very closely with our partner schools. We bring our mentors in for induction and training at the start of the year, at the start of placement. We have regular meetings with them, and so we make sure that they're, as one of the key stakeholders in this process, we make sure they're as much a part of it as the trainee and the tutors to really enhance that partnership.
So what further education and alternative studies are there?
Well, if you've completed the PGCE, you've already got credits towards a master's. And so we have a very big education department here, and we encourage our trainees, whether they want to go straight into it or whether they want to take a break from their studies, have a few years actually on the profession and come back, we encourage them to consider doing a master's in education, to take their theoretical knowledge to a whole new level, especially if they've had a few years teaching, a bit of time to put their PGCE into practice, and then come back to us, revisit theory, look at new theory, engage with research, and maybe start thinking about what they want to get out of research. What type of teacher do they want to be? How do they want to take their developing experience and be able to contribute to that wider discussion of education as well?
And if a student has the PGCE and they go and they do that for a few years, how soon after do they need to come and do their masters to be able to use those credits that they get from the PGCE?
There's no time frame on it. Once you've got that qualification, it's there, and then it's over to the alumni to decide when they might get started. There are subsidised rates for alumni, and so it's a way that we encourage our students to come back to us, our trainees to come back to us, and stay with us. So
if I was looking to apply to one of these groups into teaching, what would be my first step? Where would I need to go to be able to do this?
So our website has everything that an applicant may need to know on our course. It will tell you about course structure, it will tell you about module content, fees, expectations, entry requirements. However, if an applicant has more questions, we've got contact emails on there. You can either go to the secondary team in general, and you can either go to the admissions team if you want to talk about sort of the admissions process, or to find out more about the course, there's email addresses there to come and talk to either myself or one of the course directors. But also, as part of the interview process, all of our interviews are completed by the subject tutors. So if you're interested in a particular subject, all the contact details are on there as well, and so you can go directly to a subject tutor to find out about perhaps the course content, or maybe they'd have questions about the realities of being a teacher in that particular subject or anything like that. So I encourage them to have a look for those email contacts, or come and see us on site. We can always get in touch and arrange a meeting. There's open days, and we run webinars as well, so there's opportunities to join a webinar and ask questions. But I think more, first point of call, head to the website, and then if you have follow-up questions, follow the emails at the bottom of the page.
So it sounds like if anyone wasn't sure what route to go down or what would be best fit for them, it's the best bet is just to talk to you, talk to
Sometimes that.
leaders, talk to the university, and just access those open days and everything that you're doing to help them as well.
I would say so. Sometimes, because there's multiple routes, it can be a little overwhelming deciding between them because there's lots of information and content there. Sometimes the best way to approach it is just to sit down with someone, talk through your unique situation, talk about your expectations for the year and then beyond, and then look at those different routes to figure out which one best suits you.
Yeah, I think that's
Okay, so thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much.
And hope it's very useful in understanding the different routes that are available at Canterbury Christ Church and their secondary education options.